attending High 2023. The program will begin shortly.
Okay to sit here?
For attending High 2023.
Did I pause
The
for
program will
well,
begin shortly.
it's the other way around. Okay.
Sì, buongiorno, sono Conati, avevo chiamato prima per questo problema con la lente a contatto total. Sì, avevo trovato una fotografia esattamente della lente che mi servirebbe. Però non so come mandarla perché ho solo il vostro numero di fisso. Sì. No, io ho capito, però mi aveva detto che forse potevate guardare se c'era un modello, una cosa equivalente, qualcosa. Quindi non c'è niente che possa in qualche modo, perché le mie le posso ordinare dal Canada e mi arriveranno tra 10 giorni, però se c'era qualcosa che potevi usare nel frattempo, non lo so, se gli mando questa fotografia, perché poi comunque un attimo, il contact.
Thank you for attending High 2023. The program will begin shortly.
Io mando la fotografia, fate sapere, io comunque da domani sono lì, quindi nel caso posso passare. Sì. ho capito, se ci fosse un qualcosa che posso usare in alternativa, capisco che non è multifocale, ma dato che ho una lente per miopia e faccio veramente fatica a vedere se la seconda se potesse mettere qualcosa non multifocale, non ho idea, cioè un palliativo, sì. Capisco, perché me l'aveva detto tutto, ok, adesso vi mando la foto, grazie.
Let's try the other side. And go from there to this space.
But I have so many things. Sorry.
那三个，一可能，
那里空旷啊。
那三个就可能。
Thank you for attending CHI 2023. The program will begin shortly.
Sì, buongiorno Martina. Ho parlato prima per le lenti di contatto, sento un attimo. No, perché 4 giorni lavorativi, giusto? Quindi arriverebbero martedì. Io sto pensando. No, perché io parto lunedì. Se mando, io ho trovato una foto esattamente della lente che mi serve. Se ve la mando, magari potete vedere se avete un'alternativa. o un'alternativa a qualcosa? Perfetto, grazie. 328.
Please welcome to the stage your CHI 2023 Technical Program Chairs, Tesh Goyal, Anisha Peters, and Per Ola Christensen.
So here we are, able TPC assistants are handling. So we want to say thank you very much to them. And one of the final things that we would like to do is actually to announce the awards. And for the first student design competition, the winners were Agapet, supporting a responsible adoption process for stray and abandoned pets in urban areas, by Meijin Zhang and Gabriel Canarte. And the runner-up was Robote, interactive educational tool to teach basic education children to classify and collect waste in their school environment, by Nadia Jimenez, Belén Hernandez. Then the winners for the student game competition was category 1, under innovative interfaces, Medusa, a view tracking Pong game, by Nikolai Lukas Reinke, Tobias Wurston, and Jan Jessen. And for category 2, transformative and transgressive play category, Breathero, not another slow breathing game, exploring faster-paced VR breathing exercise games, by Xunyu Wang, Chayu Cheng, Xiumeng Wang, Weng Luo Cheng, Yu Shun Yuan, and Ji Wei Lin.
Thanks, Anisha. On to the student research competition. We have two categories in this. Category 1, undergraduates, and category 2, graduates. Starting with the undergraduates. The first prize goes to animated patterns, applying dynamic patterns to vector illustrations, by Joshua Yang. The second prize goes to which factors predict the chat experience of a natural language generation dialogue service, by Yizhen Chen. And the third one is Coco, design and evaluation of a wearable pet that supports composting habits towards an interaction design for empathy, by Debbie Jung. Category 2, graduates. The first prize is anonymous online support, investigations of identity and heterogeneous groups in online recovery support, by Matthew Zent. The second one is Longzal, a longitudinal search as learning study with university students, by Nilavra Bhattacharya. And the third one is contrasting technologists and activists' positions on signing avatars, by Robin Angelini.
SIGGRAPH Emerging Technologies, and soon will beat it in a few years, I'm sure. And on that note, let us introduce the Interactivity Awards, if we can go to the next one. All right, so the jury's best demo recognition, the handheld and head-mounted augmented reality. And it's by Boutwaj Hu, Yushen Zhang, Xishan Hao, and Yilan Tao. And we have two honorable mentions. The first one is versatile, immersive, virtual and augmented, tangible OR, using VR, AR and tangibles to support surgical practice. And it's by Anke Verena Reinschlüssel, Thomas Munder, Roland Fischer, Valentin Kraft, Verena Nicole Uslar, Dirk Weyer, Andrea Schenk, Gabriel Sackmann, Tanja Döring, and Rainer Malaka. And the second honorable mention goes to Demonstrating Fluito, a playful flotation tank experience by Maria Montoya, Yuzhang Yi, Sarah Jane Pell, and Florian Müller. And the People's Choice for Best Demo, the winner is Design and Fabrication of Body-Based Interfaces. The demo by Saarland HCI Lab by Jürgen Steiner, Marie Muehlhaus, Madalena Luciana Nicolai, Aditya Shekhar Nitala, Narges Polyafin, Adwait Sharma, Mark Teisler, Marian Köhler, Bruno Foucault, and Paul Strohmeyer. And again, there are two honorable mentions. The first one is The Art of Privacy, a theatrical privacy installation in virtual reality by Frederike Jung, Jonah Noel Kaiser, Kai von Holt, Wilke Hoyten, and Jochen Meyer. The second honorable mention is Towards More Inclusive and Accessible Virtual Reality, conducting large-scale studies in the wild by Teresa Schnatter, Lucy Kruse, Sultan Karasu-Mangolo, Sebastian Rings, Frank Steinke, and Christian Hildebrand. And now we'd like to welcome the general chairs on the stage.
2 assistants. Alisa is giving birth soon, and Hassan is here, so you can thank her in person. We want to really thank our assistants.
So, indeed, here we are, almost at the end of CHI, and of course we hope that all of you have really enjoyed reconnecting in this event. We have really enjoyed it, and we hope you realize that it's really you who make CHI happen. And now we watch at the short video of this week.
have yesterday looked into the children's room or the children rooms, and it was amazing. We had 80 kids registered for Kai, and the fun they had was amazing. So thank you for all of those who brought their kids, who dared to bring their kids to the Kai, and also for those who organized, making it happen.
And next, we want to thank people without whom the whole conference wouldn't happen. You probably know, and if you don't, we really want to emphasize that student volunteers are really the backbone of Kai. So we had more than 200 student volunteers this year, and they have worked for countless hours with a wonderful attitude. They have been so super helpful to all of us, and like I said, without them Kai wouldn't happen. So please, SVs, either wave or stand up, and let's give a round of applause to our
Kai is a volunteer-led organization, so we have the student volunteers, we have a large organizing committee. Please wave, stand up, wherever you are. We have the program committee, the technical program committee, we have the reviewers, and the numbers of reviews, the number of lines of reviews written, it's just, it's huge when you look at it. So a round of applause for everybody who helped to make Kai, to make the technical program, to make it happen here.
Okay, and now we invite Elizabeth Churchill, our keynote chair, to introduce the closing keynote.
Well, thank you so much. I am so excited to introduce our closing keynote. Our closing keynote is Peter Kariuki, and hopefully you saw the video at the beginning of the conference. But if you didn't, just a few words before he comes up here. He's a self-taught software engineer, a hacker, and an entrepreneur. He's lived in more than 10 countries in Africa, and he's got a really keen eye for what people need and want. And he's sort of had all of these different diverse experiences. I asked him if he would share a little bit more about himself so that I don't take up too much time here, and he's going to do that. And I do want you to ask him questions, so please use the QR code to get questions into Slido. And I'm going to keep it so short because I can't wait to invite Peter up here. Come on, Peter.
Africa was late to the digital economy, but it is rapidly catching up and being transformed by it. There are many opportunities which are disguised as challenges, and I believe these are invitations for innovative designs. To design products for African users, we have to pay close attention to the local context in which they use, who is using them, and for what they're using it for. I'm excited to be here at Kai and to be a part of this community. I would like to share with you my story and my experience that I've learned in launching digital products in Africa. I come from a small village in Kenya called Engineer. As you can see, it's a real place. It's nestled at the foothills of the Aberdares, and my family lived in a farming community where roosters woke you up in the morning, and cows mooing and sheep bleating. That was our background music. As a young boy, I spent many hours obsessing over ways to get more power, as our only source of power was a car battery. We only had one channel on the television, and with my brother and sisters as lookouts, I would spend many hours trying to take it apart and to put it back in time for my parents to come back. Mobile phones came to my village when I was about 5 years old. These were very basic phones, and to make a call, we had a spot, designated spots. There was either a hill, it had to be a high spot, and calls were reserved for special circumstances because the only place to charge the phone was over 2 kilometers away. The first time I saw a computer, I was awestruck. Fellow kids at school were playing Wolf 3D, and I watched them use the trackball with such dexterity, and seeing messages like, "It is now safe to turn off your computer," that was a strange thing for me. One day, I was sent to the local print shop, which had the only computer in town. And this was the day that changed my life. There sat a man who was studying computer science in university, and he showed me something cool. He wrote a program that animated an object in 2D space. Programming was a very foreign concept to me, and it had never occurred to me that a normal human being, an engineer, could command a computer to their will. I became a frequent visitor to the shop, and I convinced the student who was studying computer science to share his materials with me. When no one was looking, I printed hundreds of pages of documentation without paying. A few months later, during a school holiday, my dad called me in. And there sat the owner of the print shop, spilling the beans on how I have been printing documents without paying. I had a lot of explaining to do for my dad to foot the $100 bill. At the time, this devastated me, but a seed had been planted firmly in my mind. It seemed as if in the world of software, it was unlimited. You could build whatever you want. I was inspired to pursue a career in technology and to use it to be a driver for social change and economic growth. My experiences growing up shaped how I think about designing products for especially African users. I'm inspired by the power that technology brings and the opportunities that it creates for individuals and communities. Fast forward 20 years later, and technology, connectivity, and network have transformed my hometown of Engineer. It's incredible to think that just 60 years ago, my grandfather was fighting for independence from the British. And now we have a WhatsApp group with my family where I get to see what everybody had for lunch. Engineer is still a small place, but there's many towns like it. If you look across the continent, you will see an explosion in connectivity, technology, all around the continent. One of these great transformation is in financial services. In many ways, Kenya is leading the world in innovations in mobile banking and mobile money. Thanks to innovations like M-Pesa in Kenya. M-Pesa made it as easy as sending a text message, sending money is easy as sending a text message. It's great on paper, but it's actually even more incredible when you see it in the real world, because they managed to include everybody and it's accessible for all. I remember when M-Pesa came to my village, we weren't able to use banks because of minimum deposits and fees, and so because my family had a shop, the money that they would earn, we had a designated hiding spot. It was a family secret. And when M-Pesa came, people were running to put all the money in M-Pesa. It's a great example of an innovation that was able to be available for all. Moreover, in this same period, Africa's population has exploded, with a median age of just 19 years old. Africa is so young that by the end of the century, most of the world's children will be in Africa. Young people are the driving force behind much of the continent's transformation. In this same time, mobile phones have come to the continent and have become the primary device that most young people will use. These are cheap, powerful Android smartphones that have just exploded on the continent. While connectivity and access has been growing, there's still a large part of the population that is left behind. You can have access to network, but you're not able to get online yourself, for many reasons. So we can't overstate the importance of equal access for technology for all. At the same time, because of the rapid transformation of Africa, a lot of the design languages that have just come to the continent do not necessarily translate well to the African context. For many users who may not be familiar with Western culture and languages. For example, why does an X mean close? Why is it that a floppy disk sign it means save? We cannot assume technology legacy for our users because they just kind of walked into the world of smartphones. There's now over 500 million smartphones on the continent. And with the rise of smartphones as a primary device for getting online and accessing the internet, we need to think about mobile design, and we need to optimize for touch experiences. We have to pay close attention to how our products are used as well. To deploy successfully, we have to think about technology being used in a low-resource setting. For example, many users use data like a light switch, where they will only turn it on when they need it and off at other times. This is because data is still expensive. And speaking of light switches, because power is often unavailable, those sometimes don't go on. We had how that could save your company. I have had the pleasure of visiting and working in many African countries and launching digital products. The journey has felt as one of going through the jungle with a machete in hand and cutting your way through it. I would like to share some of those projects with you. In Kigali, there is a bus station at the periphery of the city called Nyabugogo. Every day, over tens of thousands of passengers visit the station to buy tickets to go to various destinations. I was brought in to design a fleet management system and ticketing system for the bus companies. The idea was, okay, let's take a point-of-sale system, it will connect to the cloud, and it will work. We designed the system with that in mind, and when we launched it, we quickly noticed many issues. As part of understanding the challenges that were faced, we camped at the bus station and traveled with the bus drivers around the country, and sometimes we'd sell tickets ourselves. What we noticed is that connectivity would sometimes drop off. There would be places where there would be dead zones with no connectivity at all. Furthermore, for most people, when they were buying their tickets, they were buying for the next bus, so they were impatiently queuing and needed the system to work really quickly. Users were also not familiar with a point-of-sale system, and they needed further hand-holding to be able to use the system. With these lessons learned, we went back to the drawing board and redesigned the system. One of the things we did was we enabled the system to work offline fast and to reconcile in the background. We also utilized multiple SIM cards for failover so that when one SIM card would fail, the network would automatically go on to the next one. One of the technologies that is really exciting and that we utilize is something called USSD. For those who may not be familiar with USSD, it allows for interactive menus, programmable, that you can use on any type of phone, even a feature phone. It's how most of M-Pesa and mobile money is deployed across the continent. Users could go on to the USSD system and pre-book their tickets, pay with mobile money, to avoid the situation where they have to queue in line. These changes were part of the reasons why we were able to sign up the bus companies, and the government even made a policy to force the bus companies to use an electronic ticketing system. Now, I haven't seen any motorcycle taxis here in Hamburg, but they are the primary way of moving around in Africa. There's over 5 million motorcycle taxis in Africa, whether it's a border in East Africa, a Wewe in Kinshasa, or a Okada in West Africa. They represent one of the largest informal employers on the continent, and they're called to many personal and business activities. In Kigali, like many African cities, the way you get one is you go to the road and you flag somebody down and you take them to your destination. It's an excellent test of trust because you do not know who the driver is, you don't know how old they are, and you don't know if this is the first day of the job. As a result, they are extremely dangerous, and many hospitals will have a wing just for motorcycle-related accidents, injuries. One day in Kigali, I took one to meet a friend, and immediately after taking him, I realized that he had no sense of balance or speed control. As we were heading off to a destination, I was begging him to slow down and be careful. And when I arrived where I was going, meeting a friend, we wished if there was a way to know if the quality of the driver ahead of time. We had many ideas. Let us put the sensors in the helmets. Let us track them via satellite. But eventually, the idea that won was we realized that all the sensors we needed were in a medium-range smartphone. We utilized the gyroscopes, the accelerometer, and other sensors in the phone to track how they were driving, to gauge their driving behavior. We put a video online, and it was picked up by an Irish investor who was investing in transportation startups. They sent us one of those emails we had in the opening keynote. It said, "We like your idea. If you apply here, you might get funding and resources to come here." After our initial skepticism, we applied and we got in and moved to Ireland to build our product. We built it there, and in Ireland there was perfect maps, the connectivity always worked, people always had high-end phones, and after 3 months of working there, we were ready, and we moved back to Rwanda to launch the product. We fell flat on our face. While map data in a place like Ireland was excellent, a lot of Rwanda was still unmapped. There was many places, such as informal settlements, that did not have an accurate mapping structure. We had to go back to the drawing board to think about how we would get customers and drivers paired together. Eventually, we launched Safe Motors in Rwanda, and over time, expanded it to Kinshasa. Kinshasa is the capital of the Democratic Republic of Congo. It is both a marvel and a terror. For those who might be familiar with Kin, it is one of those cities that lives up to its reputation. When we arrived there, what we saw were traffic-clogged streets, lack of trust among users, no way to move around, and these were a perfect environment for us to launch Safe Motors at. While I thought I understood the needs for safe motors intellectually, it became personal one day. As I was exploring the city of Kinshasa, I was walking around, visiting the zoo with ideas ringing in my head about product, telematics, and launch expansion. I visited the zoo, and outside I found a driver who looked decently dressed. He looked like he had come from church. So I took the driver and instructed him to my destination. A few meters away from the destination, he swerved away and started driving into oncoming traffic. My desperate screams for help fell on deaf ears, and I realized that he was up to no good, and I had to get myself out of this situation. After what seemed like eternity, he slowed enough for me to jump off his bike and run to safety. This left me badly wounded and cost me my front teeth. But I did make it to the hospital on time. And as I was lying there in the emergency room, on the far end of a morgue, it became clear that this issue of road safety was deadly serious. A couple of months later, we launched Safe Motors in Kinshasa, and our drivers completed over 3 million trips with none requiring an emergency room visit. While we set off to revolutionize the motorcycle industry in Africa, we learned a lot of lessons along the way, and I would like to share some with you. For example, at the core of a ride-hailing application is the ability to route users together from one place to the other. How would you do that? You would get a GPS lock. Now what we found is that because most people have low-end smartphones, you can get a GPS location that is almost accurate, but the window is too big. So in a hilly place like Kigali, that can mean a difference of 5 minutes or 10 minutes on a different road. Furthermore, we found that many people were unfamiliar with map interfaces and are unable to recognize the map interface that they have. What we did was we started utilizing a database of points of interest. So we would direct the driver to say, go to this point of interest, triangulate yourself, and there will be textual directions to give you more instruction on how you go. Some of them would read, arrive at this building and take a left turn and a blue gate by the tree. And it worked. It worked, and many people were able to connect with the drivers themselves. While we'd look at our funnels, we would see that a lot of people would download the app, create an account, but very few would end up requesting a ride. We tried to understand what was going on by doing surveys and asking people in the street, but those did not bring any right answers. So we ended up deciding to have an idea. Let us pick 20 people who have never used the product, let us put them in a room, and let us observe how they work on various tasks. And we sat in the other room, nervously watching. What we found out was majority of our users were unable to complete even basic tasks. The design language was foreign, they didn't recognize icons, and it was incredible that very few people were able to complete the task that we put in. When we were interviewing the users after that, some of them said that they were embarrassed. They were embarrassed because they were unable to figure out. Now, as a product designer, I don't think you set off to embarrass the users. And that dawned on us that we had been disrespecting our users. We had to get back again to the drawing board and make some design changes. One of them was instead of relying on just the GPS log that you get, we would instruct them, go on outside, walk outside the window, and put your phone outside, and you can get a better GPS log yourself. This also, we applied the same idea for the drivers. Because the drivers would get rated on their safety score, what we started doing was, if the driver did not meet the certain score, they would get cut off. But then we changed that by bringing in the drivers who had a low score and pairing them with the driver who had a high score. By having them explain their ideas in context and to say, this is how you maintain a high score, we were amazed by how quickly they were able to improve their scores going forward. The system of having users help each other was a great idea that we applied when we went to Kinshasa. We hired a team of street teams where people would stand in the streets and they would flag users down and they would explain to them how to use the products. By hand-holding the users and taking them through the journey for the fast ride, they were able to learn how to use the system themselves and understand how the system works. I wanted to share another example of a great innovation that works in context. For a lot of medical installations in Africa, they still rely on paper-based records. While the data that is in those records is valuable, it can be utilized for a lot of purposes, it is expensive to hire teams of people to enter the data itself. This company called Paperimar utilizes a stamp where a form that has been structured and preset ahead of time can be stamped onto the records, and a picture can be taken, and that data is automatically extracted and to be utilized in a dashboard situation. What we hear about all the advances of artificial intelligence, I like innovations like this because it's about it being used in context and it solving a major problem that is faced. Reflecting on all the experiences across Africa and with launching products, I am motivated by the power that technology has in solving problems that matter. I am turning my attention to a new challenge. This is the rising rates of non-communicable diseases on the continent. Over the last 20 years, there has been great innovations in primary care and infectious diseases. Right now, we're experiencing a transition where non-communicable diseases such as diabetes and hypertension have become the leading causes of death. It's been great to be here at KAI and to see great examples of innovations that are looking into addressing these issues. It was amazing to see how interventions, when presented at the right time for the safe motors drivers, were able to help them change their behavior to become safer drivers. And I'm excited to explore such ideas and how they translate into health, into the healthcare space. Africa is a rapidly changing continent, and there are a lot of unique opportunities which are disguised as challenges. And when you look across the continent, you see there's over 1,200 digital platforms that have come up, mostly by local Africans, to solve problems that they see and have. Designing products for African users requires a deep understanding of the context and the context in which they're used. Sometimes you have to build so much around your product, as there are few legacy systems to build on top of. I think that this presents an opportunity for us to think from first principles and at each layer, think of a different way that it can be. And I believe that it's layer by layer is how ecosystems are built. Technology is at our fingertips. We're living in the age of AI, and it feels like a lifetime of science fiction has been building up to this. And there's no shortage of opportunities to design inclusive and meaningful solutions that can have impact on people. This community has shaped how we use technology today, and now an opportunity is in front of us, designing for the future, which I believe is increasingly African. I invite the problem solvers in the audience to pick a problem, design inclusively, imagine a new reality, become it long enough to change the world. We Africans are motivated to work together. You will find energy to draw from, a spirit of optimism, and entrepreneurial spirit, which I believe are the core ingredients for real change. I would like to end with the words of John Muir, who says, "The power of imagination makes us infinite." Thank you very much for your attention, and look forward to your thoughts and ideas.
Peter, thank you so much. That was an absolutely wonderful talk, and you and I have had a couple of chats, so I have some bones of what you're talking about, but it's so good to see the full stories shared. And Peter was sharing earlier that he's really enjoyed meeting people in this community and already feels part of it and wants to make sure that we continue to have dialogue. And one of the things about our community is they're quite pushy, and so this question actually is really for the steering committee, but you might get inveigled into this. When are we hosting Kai at the Kigali Convention Centre? More seriously, that's a great question, and the steering committee, we're on it. But I'm going to ask you a question which is about specific content. What would you recommend for non-African researchers on their research journey with African users?
For non-African researchers to understand the context of Africa, I believe that the most powerful way is to be there and to look outside the window, and you will notice a lot of things that you might not get elsewhere. I believe that if you're in context, you will get a lot of color into how, and most importantly, why things are done in a certain way. And it's impossible to get that elsewhere. And I think a lot of great ideas come from just being at the right place at the right time and noticing what can be different.
There's so many good questions. I just have to choose one of them. Maybe I'll start with this one. You talked about M-Pesa. M-Pesa started in Africa and disrupted money payments globally. I know it's definitely come around in India and has changed the world in India as well. What future disruptions do you expect from the African continent that will change the world?
I'm excited about the potential for technology to solve meaningful problems. Now, M-Pesa was a great transformation of the financial industries, and smartphones as well they have changed how we connect, how we talk, and a lot of utilities coming out of that. And what I'm excited about is we have this great platform of innovation, and we have many, many challenges still, whether it's around climate change or around healthcare or education. And what I would like to see is the smartphone having more utility in addressing the serious challenges that are there. Everybody's online on a powerful phone. So what is it that we can create that addresses all these challenges and help solve them? Thanks.
Hi, Peter. As a fellow African, I really appreciate your talk. However, people might have noticed that I had to put my phone and take pictures from his Slido because my phone doesn't update. I don't know. It's supposed to be a great phone, but anyways. So, I chose a question from Humphrey Curtis, and this question is, with the comparatively smaller data footprint of Africa and growth in AI and LLMs, are you concerned AI and its biases will push Africa further behind?
It's been great to see the recent advancements in artificial intelligence, and especially around large language models and large image models. While I believe that we have a lot of excitement, and this is because the timing has just clicked, where we have enough data, enough processing power to be able to start to extract value from these models. I do believe that, yes, these models will represent the data that is fed to them and to represent a lot of the historical biases that we have. So I believe that the diversity of the process, whether it's the people annotating the data or the data that is being collected, eventually gets represented in the outputs of these models. So I think today we can have so much more representation in these models, and there is a question of where that data comes from. And I believe that eventually we have to think about all kinds of what type of data we feed in and what type of biases and representations does it end up outputting.
Thank you again. Super inspiring talk, really. I'm sure it's a question that was very highly voted but also resonated with me. And that's essentially, what would you recommend for non-African researchers for us to engage with a user research journey in Africa? What should we do? What are your tips and tricks?
I would to all the researchers out here who are interested in the continent, I invite you to go there and visit the many places. What you will see is there's a certain story that is represented, but you will see so much more when you're there. And there's a lot of diversity across city to city, country to country, and problems sometimes transfer across borders, but most of the times they're unique. It's either because of local cultural sensitivities or just the history of the place. So if you can set foot in there, I believe that you will see so much more, and there's so much value to be extracted and created in there.
So, as people interested in technology, we tend to want to build lots and lots and lots of things. And I think this is a wonderful question, because someone asks, what should we not build for the African context? What should we not try to go and, create?
That is interesting. I think for the African continent had a bad track record of having a lot of value extraction instead of creation. So I think, to shift away and say that I believe that we need to have the lens of what kind of value can we create, rather what can we extract. So when we're building products and thinking about projects, I think we need to apply that lens and say there is a great capacity, great human resource capacity, there is a great platform for innovation, people are online, so what is it that we can create that brings value to the continent?
That's a really good answer, and I have to follow up with a very similar question. So I apologize first. Someone asks, are there any areas where you feel technology has been harmful? And it's a good question, right? So, such as offending existing practices or locking individuals out of these new digital systems, perhaps? Any examples you can maybe share with us?
Yeah. I think that there are some areas that have been harmful in the development of technology across the continent. Since now everybody is online and we are consuming, everybody consumes their information from the internet. As a result of that, there's been a lot of bad actors that have come in. I'll share an example. I was in Kinshasa, I was in Brazzaville, which is a city that is across the river from Kinshasa during the last election. The government of the DRC shut down the internet there, but over in Brazzaville, you could still access the internet. As the election continued and we were online on social media, we could see a lot of fake news and disinformation coming there, trying to support losing candidates to win. So this is just one example, but there are other examples where these platforms, as we're getting connected and people are not able yet to discern a lot of the information in front of them, and there is huge capacity, opportunities for bad actors to present disinformation, and this message is spread like wildfire, where everybody spreads around, and so that has been a harmful output of technology, I believe.
So there is a very recent question here. So you've been at Kai, right? So a natural question to ask, and I can't believe you haven't asked it already. What did you like about Kai?
It's been incredible to be at Kai. I feel like I found my tribe. Somebody told me that Kai is people who care about computers and also people. And it's been amazing to just see a lot of brilliant ideas all around and innovations. And to see, I went to the interactions demos, and it was incredible to see how people are reimagining how we interact with computers, and not just in the traditional kind of 2D screen view. So it's been a great diversity of ideas, and it's been excellent.
So, I found a question from Shaima Lassim. Great talk. I admire that you chose a human-centered approach of how you see users, and do you see a role of the human-computer interaction African community in the next 10 years? How do you see that role?
Yeah, I believe, again, the message of having this deep understanding of the context of the play of being there and seeing, understanding where are the people coming from, what drives, what motivates them, what kinds of problems do they care about. And I think this community of people who care about human-computer interaction, having a global footprint and having boots on the ground that are sending in reports on what is it like on the ground. I think that is the opportunity that we have of having these different voices represented and having these unique perspectives represented as technology becomes more and more part of our lives.
Thanks. Talking about perspectives, and as a non-African researcher myself, this question really resonates with me. do you think non-African researchers should do research in Africa? Or should this challenge be left to local researchers?
I am a believer in perspectives. I believe that we all have a perspective to bring, and there is something that, given the story that we've been told and that have brought us to where we are, can give us an opportunity to see something that others might miss. And I believe that there's no borders to knowledge, and I invite all non-African researchers to go there, and you can imagine a different reality by combining your experiences of seeing something that has worked elsewhere and imagining how it could work in a lower resource setting. I believe that is the opportunity for having these diverse representations in this field.
Reem, I'm not sure how to say the name, asks, I'm a North African here. I wonder if you had any pushback from the currently used system refusing change, or any kind of pushback that resistance to some of the things that you've been trying to bring to life.
Yes, I believe that people do resist change, and especially when something is new and different. I'll give an example. For the bus companies, they were, in previous times, they would use paper receipts, and those paper receipts gave them a lot of loopholes for fraud. They would print their own receipt books and collude with the drivers to sell their tickets. Now, bringing an electronic ticketing system that brings efficiency and here new technology will be completely resisted because we're closing out their loopholes. And I think at the beginning there's always that resistance, but with enough time and once people have seen what can be, then there's a shift. And when we look back at how things were, it seems completely weird that we would do that. So I think it takes time and it takes a lot of education, but with time, change is the only thing that is constant.
Yes, I do have a question here from Jay-Z Sin. And the question is, what are the things that people often get wrong when trying to design for an African user's context? And what do you recommend designers do to avoid these issues?
I think one of the things that people might miss is that for Africa is so young, and for most people, an Android smartphone is the first device that they will be interacting with. They didn't use Windows XP or Windows 95. They're going straight into a smartphone, and therefore they don't have this legacy of all this technology that has been used before, and therefore we can't make any assumptions about that they will recognize the design languages that we present in front of them. I believe the way to address this is to pay close attention to how your product is used. If you are able to observe what people do with your products, you will see these nuances, and you will be surprised by what people do that is completely different from what it was designed for.
So I have my own question, and I was struck by the fact that the people use mobile phones as the primary computing device. And some people say the primary computing device may change. So you lack the interactivity here with the non-2D interfaces, virtual and augmented reality. So some people predict that the next mobile phone platform might be augmented reality glasses, right? That everybody can wear. I'm just very curious about your thoughts about that. Will that change the way people would do interaction design in Africa, in some particular way?
I think that the rate of transformation in Africa happens so quickly, and Africans are early adopters, and I think that we were quick to jump from no phones to phones, and we would gladly accept innovations in virtual reality and augmented reality. I think the opportunities there, the opportunities around there in education in representations of cultures, of history, are unlimited, and it's just a platform. And if it is affordable and it scales on the continent, what's going to happen is that people will jump on the ship and create a lot of products that lead to more adoption on this.
This is a really interesting question. Your stories sound perhaps unintentional neocolonialism. For example, the floppy disk icon that you were sharing, the close box, perhaps the cloud architecture as well. What is the path, according to you, to decolonize technology?
I think that there is this conversation that's going on around digital decolonization, because right now a lot of the products that we use are global and they're designed elsewhere and they work across the world. At the same time, the data and the teams are not normally in the place over there. And I think right now all the digital companies that are arising on the continent are leading this charge, because these people can understand the real needs of the people who are there, but at the same time they bring all these additional benefits around the ecosystems that are built around this. So I think that the future of products being designed locally and ecosystems developing is the way to go.
So one last question, which is, I don't know, wanted you to riff a little bit. I'm so excited about your new project within the healthcare space. If there were calls to action you could give to us as a community to do, what kinds of things could we do to help to support that kind of very local contextual activity that you're involved in? If you were coming, if you were going to look at all the papers at CHI or coming next year, what would you like to have seen some of us maybe attend to?
I'm really excited about the area of health, and especially because it affects us all. And one area that I think this community can contribute is they've been thinking about, there's all this data that is being collected and available around healthcare. So whether it's doctor visits or it's vitals that are being checked. So how can we utilize all of this data to map behaviors and do behavior matching? And once we identify certain patterns, what kind of interventions can we present to people that helps them improve their health? And I think the mapping of that interaction of how somebody lives their life, connected with all the data sources, and what does the future look like, where we're able to give the right information at the right time in context that helps somebody improve their health.
Well, Peter, I think this is a really good place, health and well-being, as a call to action for us all to practice, if not research. I think is a wonderful area and message, and want to say thank you so much. Everybody, please join me in thanking Peter.
Welcome the CHI Steering Committee Chair, Cliff Lampy.
Thank you all very much. Wonderful keynote. We appreciate it. Let me get Albert and Kaisa up here again one last time. Round of applause for them a second. Personal experience that being an organizer for CHI is one of the most beautiful and tumultuous experiences one can have, and you both have done a wonderful job, and we appreciate it as a community along with all of your volunteer organizers. Thank you all very much for making CHI happen. I wasn't hiding, I was going for a present. So we got you these steins because on top of being great organizers, your joy for life is stunning. I have never been to a party where both of you have not outlasted me by hours. We appreciate how much celebration you bring to this conference, and hopefully these are never empty again.
So let's go to
All right, please give them a great background for this selfie. Thank you as well to all of the presenters, the authors who have done so much work, the members of this community. I've seen nothing but kindness and respect and joy at this conference. CHI 2023 really did manage to reconnect us, and that was a wonderful thing to witness. But now it's my pleasure to welcome CHI 2024 to the stage. Your technical program chairs, we have Karina Saps and Julia Williamson. And then your papers chairs, we have Phoebe Toops-Dugas, we have Irina Schlotsky, and we have Max L. Wilson. Welcoming and thanking to the volunteers for CHI 2024 in Hawaii, USA.
As they say in Hawaii, aloha. We welcome you to join us next year in wonderful Hawaii and respecting their cultural traditions and joining us in a conference whose motto is Surfing the World.
The conference will be from the 11th to the 16th of May. And well, we know it's far for many. It's also closer for people like me from the Australasia region. Realizing that CHI is going to be more open to the world. Furthermore, it's also an acknowledgement and a thank you to all the local companies that supported us when CHI 2020 was cancelled and encouraged us to come back.
In our quest to balance work and life, we will also support high-tech attendance for those who like to join us remotely.
We have all the tracks that you love at CHI. The submission deadlines are on our website. It's just 140 days until the paper's deadline, so start planning now.
We have a short promo video for you from the local tourism board to help you get a little excited about the trip.
forward to seeing as many of you as possible next year.